Good morning, all of you. Okay? Right. Thank you, Jan, for that introduction. Yes, I am missing my cat, and yes, I have done over 3,500 user tests. This makes me old, I know. It's basically because user research is pretty much at the heart of everything we do at AG Console. It's part of every information architecture project. It's part of every conversion optimization project, and it has been since 2001. That's a long time. Now, I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, my God, woman, if you've been in this industry for so long, why do you still need to do user research? Don't you know this shit? Surely there are rules, there are best practices to all of this. And yeah, I know quite a bit of them. I'm sorry, by the way, for this super sexist slide. I tried to find a screenshot of a Mrs. Know-It-All. Literally doesn't exist. Anyway, back to those rules, those best practices. I prefer to call them guidelines and common practices because really, when people ask me a very specific question, very often I still have to answer the dreaded, it depends. Because, you have to do the research for your situation. You have to find out what works best for your website, for your audience, for your product or service. Now, if you don't do that, if you're just going on your gut feeling, you're gambling. And when you gamble, you win maybe once, twice, but it's not going to last because you don't have a foundation. You don't have a basis. Now, what I get asked very often is, how much research should you do? Personally, I'm a big fan of the just in time, just enough mantra. You should do just enough research for that particular time in your process, in your project. Now, usually, when you start a conversion optimization project, that means you have to do quite a bit of research up front because there's lots of stuff you need to find out. And my, let's say less mature clients usually have the reaction of going, really? Do we need to do the boring user research? Can't we just skip to the sexy A/B testing? No, we can't, because the user research is absolutely vital. User research is not a cost. User research is a business tool, and it helps you make better business decisions. It helps you mitigate risk. It helps you prioritize your optimization efforts. Now, thankfully, there is lots of research methods and tools around, and you probably know all of these and have used quite a bit of them. At least that's what I'm hoping. Okay? And the biggest differences in research methods are between quantitative and qualitative methods. Quantitative, typical research methods to use if you want questions answered like what questions, how many. Qualitative user research is what you turn to when you want to find out why, how. Say, for example, that you want to know what particular point of your funnel people are dropping off at. That's when you go to Google Analytics, or when you want to zoom in on the particular field, that's when you go to your form analysis tools. But neither of those will tell you the reason why people are dropping off. That's when you have to go to your surveys. That's where you have to go to your moderated user testing, for example. And the different types of research also give you different types of data. With quantitative research, you typically get large data sets. The value of quantitative research lies in the volume. You have lots of it, but it is very thin data. It only tells you one very specific thing. When you do qualitative research, you have a small set of data. You might only do 1 day of user testing with 5 or 6 people, but you get thick, rich data. Both of these combined makes it really worthwhile. Also, of course, the nature of the data is different. When you do quantitative research, you get nicely structured data. I know there's a lot of data cleaning still to do, but still, it's already nicely in that spreadsheet. If you do qualitative research, there's a lot more work that needs to be done to get it in there. Now, I'm not a big fan of the quantitative versus qualitative discussion. I think Craig said it really well yesterday. that you definitely need both, and you can have your quantitative inform your qualitative research and vice versa. But for the purpose of this talk, I'd like to focus on the qualitative aspect because it gets neglected a bit, and it can teach you something that is really very valuable. It can teach you empathy with your users. It can teach you to see through the eyes of your customers. Now, some of you may have noticed that our Danish friend, Ivan, the tourist guide for Copenhagen, he also mentioned empathy yesterday. I think his exact words were, empathy with the customer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I asked him later that night what he really meant.
I support Els in everything related to customer advocacy, customer empathy, and pretty much anything to do with the customer, because Els is the bomb.
He said it. He said it. So yeah, customer empathy, very important. See this picture? This is the picture of the observation room of a user test that we did for a Dutch client of ours, the Bijenkorf. Now you see at the far end, the lady sitting close to the post-it notes, that's my colleague Aline. All the people sitting at the long end of the table are people from the client. And they're watching on the opposite side of the room, the screen in which the user test is streamed live. Now, take a minute and look at their faces. Is this user test going well? It is not. It is not. The user is struggling. She is struggling to find the product. She is struggling to use the checkout. And you can see that struggle reflected in my clients' faces. They said things like, oh, this is the horror. And this is really painful. Yes. This is the user's pain reflected on their faces. They actually feel it. And that's very powerful. And that is something very rarely looking at Google Analytics will do that to you. You need that human connection. Now, we all know this one, 80% of customers say they're customer-centric, but only 8% of their customers agree. I actually think that those are really, really sad numbers. But I think we can do something about this. I think qualitative user research can help us close this gap. It can help us close this disconnect that we have with our customer by gaining a deeper knowledge of them. And I'm not talking about social demographic data. I'm talking about finding out what their motivations are, finding out what their emotions are, finding out what drives them. Now, I usually have a obligatory Amazon slide in here right now, with Jeff Bezos talking about how you need to start from the customer, how you need to obsess over the customer. I've replaced Jeff with Andre because he said something on the first day that I completely agree with. Companies who fail to embrace customer experience as a strategy won't just be lagging, they will be left behind. They are the dinosaurs and they will die. Now, I'd like to talk you through 3 different qualitative user research methods that can really help you gain empathy with your users, that can really help you get a deeper insight into your users, and how to leverage that knowledge into business results. Because what I want to stress here is that having empathy with your users is not touchy-feely shit, okay? This is hard business. Getting to know your users is where the money is. So let's start with everyone's favorite, surveys. Now, I don't know if you know Joost. They're a small Dutch company. They're about 70 people. They will have a turnover of around 10 million euro this year. They're in the SEO space. They have SEO courses, SEO ebooks, but their main product, their flagship product, is a WordPress plugin for SEO optimization. Now, when we started working with Joost, we did what we always do. We start with our top task survey. Survey that appears as soon as somebody enters your website, and we ask them 2 questions. Who are you, and what are you here for? In the case of Yoast, we ask them, do you already have the Yoast plugin? Yes, I've got the free one. Yes, I've got the paying premium one. No, I don't have any. Or, I don't know, my memory's a little sketchy after last night. And of course, what is the purpose of your visit to this website? Now, this first question is a very reasonable question to ask, given the fact that the Yoast plugin is installed on around 8 million websites worldwide, okay? So what this survey told us was that actually more than 2 out of 3 visitors on the product page for the plugin already had the free version of the plugin. Okay, well, that's really not great because this page explains what the plugin is. There's even a link to download the free version. 2 out of 3 people already know this, already have this, so not good. So what we did pretty much immediately after this survey is we split these people, because we had a look in the survey and we saw that the people who actually did not have the free plugin yet, they usually came through Google, or they surfed the website, visited other pages first, blog articles, and then happened upon this page. For the other people, the 2/3 who already had the free plugin, we noticed that they were mainly coming from links inside the plugin promoting features that are only available in the premium version, or through email campaigns that Yoast did. So we created a page for them, reasons to upgrade to premium. Now this switch alone, this making one particular page for one audience, making another for a different one, this in itself resulted in 17% more sales. Which is nice, but we didn't stop. This means you have to dig deeper. You have to find out more about what these different people want. So we did more surveys. We did exit surveys on product pages, asking people, can you find what you're looking for? What's holding you back? We did an exit survey for the people who ordered it. What's the main reason for getting this? Because the Yoast people were telling us things. I love the Yoast people. But they don't necessarily, you aren't your customer, you know? What you think are the biggest benefits of your premium product is not necessarily what your customer thinks. So we asked them. And we incorporated these answers, and this is why I loved Momoko's talk yesterday. We incorporated their answers, their words, into the copy we wrote for both pages. And over the course of 9 months, we ran a lot of A/B tests on both of these product pages. Of course, not all of them were winners. Duh. But let's just say, in the end, well, it's not the end because we're still optimizing, but we've been doing it for, I think, around 9 months now. And yeah, we have increased sales of the premium plugin by 78%. Yeah. While, and this is very important, whilst not hurting our free download numbers. Because hello, this is my future customer base. You need to be very mindful of that as well. So that's great. The surveys gave us a real insight into what people wanted and also what worried them. And as much as I love surveys, if you have a more complicated product, if you have a more personal service that you offer, sometimes surveys just won't cut it. You also have to get personal with your customers. This is where interviews come in. And we did interviews for our client, Zembro. Now, I know there's a lot of you Dutch-speaking people in the room. Thank you. But I know a lot of you don't, so I'll translate this for you. What is Zembro? Zembro is a senior citizen's alarm. And basically, it says, Zembro Watch, a modern personal alarm that alerts your family in case of emergency. It offers you the freedom, independence, and confidence that matters so much to you. Now, this is quite a tricky product. Why? Because it's not usually the senior citizens who buy this for themselves. This is a decision that is usually instigated by their adult children because they want their elderly parents to be safe, you know? And look at this copy. Did you hear me say it? Didn't sound too bad, did it? Quite specific, not super generic. And yet, this wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing, which is selling the watch. And very importantly, driving brochure downloads, because brochure downloads were a great source of lead generation for them, because this meant that children could download the brochure and talk this over with their elderly parent. You know, this is a product buy that takes a long time, and there's a lot of discussion involved. And so we called up a few of these senior citizens. We called up a few of these adult children of senior parents. And while they did talk about freedom and independence, what the kids talked about most was peace of mind. They're like, I want to get this for my mom because then I know when she falls down in the bathroom again, she can immediately call me for help and I can get there, or I can alert the emergency services. And when we talked to the senior citizens, they were aware of this. They knew that wearing this would give their kids peace of mind. But they also told us, and this was usually at the end of the interview, not at the start, at the end, when we had established trust. They said, but I'm not that old. I don't want to look like some needy old person. They felt it would be stigmatizing to wear this. And now, old personal alarms do look extremely bloody clunky. I don't know if you know them, but in Belgium, they're like this big box that hangs off your belt, or they're like a big button, pretty much like the lanyard you're wearing that you hang around your neck. And a lot of people hide them under their sweaters. My grandma wore one of these for years, and I didn't know because she hid it. So that's not good. So we listened to these people, and we rewrote this page. We kept it's a modern personal alarm that alerts your family in case of emergency, but we added peace of mind at your fingertips. We started the page by talking about, a lot of people think a personal alarm, big clunky thing at your belt, thing around your neck, and needy seniors. Sembro is different. We're a modern personal alarm in the shape of an elegant digital watch. So we took away that fear. We took away those hesitations. Sure, we had the very subtle green check marks with the benefits, right? You gotta have those. But first of all, you have to address your users' emotions. You have to find out what makes them tick. Did it work? Well, we increased brochure downloads by about 84%. So yes, it did. If you listen to your users, if you tell them what they need to hear from you to be reassured, this works. And this empathy, this feeling of getting to really know your users, that's very important as well in my third method. And that is in-person moderated user testing. You need to be an empathetic person to be able to do this, because the basic setup of this type of testing is one-on-one. You have one moderator interacting with one test participant at a time. Now, I like to stress this because I sometimes get potential clients calling me and asking me to do user testing in the form of a panel or a focus group. And my reply invariably is, no! That is not user testing. That is fucking amateur hour, okay? We're not doing that. A focus group is not a user test. You can do a focus group for ideation. If you're talking about user testing, usability testing, useless method. Throw it out. Now, I'll talk you through the basic setup of moderated user testing because this is the easy bit that you can basically do tomorrow at home. The only thing you need is 2 rooms. One room where you have your moderator, you have your test participant, and everything that they do, everything that happens on the screen, everything that's being said is recorded. Now, you can use Moray for this, or you can use Toby. And then you have your second room where you have your observation team. Or if you're an agency, you can invite your client. I beg you, please invite your client. Everything that happens in the testing room is streamed to the observation room. And this is really interesting because when you get all those people together, like you saw in the picture of the Bijenkorf, That really creates that feeling of empathy with your users. Now, this is the easy bit. There are 3 things that you absolutely have to get right if you want to get quality data from this qualitative method. The first one is that you need to recruit the right users. I know some people say, oh, it's better to test with one person than with nobody, and it's better to test with your mom than actually it's not. Don't test with your mom, you know? Your mom loves you. If you're gonna show her a prototype that you made, she's gonna do her very best to like it and to succeed at every task. That's not what you want. Also, don't get too hung up on the socio-demographic stuff. Age, income, gender, all of that doesn't matter as much as the fact that you need to get users in who are actual or potential clients of your product, of your service. People who give a fuck about what you're selling. Number 2 is you need to write a good scenario. And the thing here is that you have to be aware of the fact that a user task scenario is completely different from an interview scenario. In an interview scenario, you ask questions because you want to get the user's opinion. In a user test scenario, you should set tasks because you don't want the user's opinion. Actually, I'm completely with Jacob Nielsen on this, and he says, first rule of usability, don't listen to users. Now, you're probably thinking, what? You're all about this empathy stuff, Els. You even forced Ivan to do this video, and now you're telling us not to listen to users? Well, yeah. If opinions are all your users have, and opinions about branding, opinions about your product offering, that's fine. But as soon as we're talking to the interface, as soon as we're talking about that, then we don't need opinions. Then we can have behavior. Then you need to watch what they do and not listen to what they say. And this is very important because this means that you have to be a kick-ass moderator. And trust me, this is much harder than it sounds. Because as another one of my old school heroes says, Jarrett Spool, he says you have to actually incorporate 3 personalities in one if you want to be a good moderator. And the first one is that you have to be an empathetic person. You have to naturally be somebody who likes to take care of people because you have to set your test participant at ease. You have to make sure they're comfortable and that they actually will surf the website just like they would at home because you're making them comfortable. Second personality type is you have to be a reporter. You're sitting in the room with the test participant. You have first row seats to the action. People in the observation room don't. If they have eye tracking, sure, they can follow the test better. This is true. But still, sometimes you as a moderator need to talk back to the observation room to sort of clarify what the user is doing because sometimes they look away from the screen and they look at you and they go, I really hate that blue thing. That blue thing annoys me. Nobody in the observation room will know what they're talking about if there's more than one blue thing on the screen. So you have to go, do you mean the blue thing in the top right corner? Because you can see them pointing. Could you point your mouse to it? That's what you have to do to make sure everybody's on the same page again. Third personality type, you need to be a scientist. This is what a lot of people get wrong. A lot of people think, oh, it's just chatting to some users. It really, really, really isn't, okay? You have to get your research question at the top of your mind the whole time. You have to continually think, what am I trying to find out here? Without explicitly asking that to your test participant. You have to gather data. Now, these are Jarrett's 3 personality types. I always like to add a 4th, and that is Switzerland. By which I don't mean you have to be mountainous and snowy, but you have to be neutral. And of course that means you can't ask leading questions like, so, do you like the new features we added to the product? Who's going to say no to that? Of course everybody's going to say yes. Don't do that. But it also means you have to be aware of your tone of voice. You have to be aware of the intonation in your questions. You have to be aware of the way you're sitting, where you're looking at the screen. Don't stare at the answer, please. All very important. The most important thing to do as a moderator is you have to be able to take a back seat. You have to let your test participant take center stage. They should be doing 99% of the talking during the user test. Your job as a moderator is to shut up, which is what I'll do right now. Thank you very much.